My girlfriend said I wasn't compatible with her ambitious colleagues, so I decided to show her what real compatibility looked like. The conversation happened the night before her birthday party, but I'd been watching the signs build for weeks like stress fractures in aircraft aluminum. I'm Lorenzo, 30 years old, working as an aerospace quality inspector in Fort Worth, Texas, where I'd relocated 5 years earlier to support what I thought was our shared future. Camila had received a territory promotion with her pharmaceutical company, a significant step up in the competitive medical device sector, and I'd made the decision to transfer from my secure position in Houston without hesitation. The move meant abandoning a clear leadership track opportunity at Boeing's Houston facility, where I'd been identified as management material and was 2 promotions away from overseeing an entire quality assurance department. But I believed supporting her ambitious career goals was what partners did for each other, what building a life together actually meant in practical terms. I'd been consistently funding our luxury apartment lease in one of Fort Worth's premier complexes, the kind of place with granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, and floor-to-ceiling windows offering city views that she insisted was necessary for her professional image. The monthly rent consumed nearly 40% of my salary, but Camila argued that pharmaceutical sales required projecting success to earn credibility with high-level medical professionals. I also covered her networking events, those expensive industry gatherings where pharmaceutical reps schmooze with doctors and hospital administrators over $100 bottles of wine and $30 appetizer plates. These weren't occasional social functions but weekly obligations that could easily run $300 per event. Camila was establishing her client relationships in a field where appearance and connections matter more than actual competence, and I understood the investment required for someone building their professional reputation. What I didn't anticipate was how quickly she'd start viewing my steady presence as a liability rather than an asset. The evening before her 28th birthday party at an upscale wine bar downtown, she confronted me with what she claimed were her colleagues' observations about our relationship compatibility. She'd been receiving questions, she explained with practiced concern, about whether someone in aerospace quality control could really understand the dynamic world of pharmaceutical sales. Her colleagues apparently found it curious that she'd settled for someone so rooted in traditional engineering protocols when she moved in circles with innovative biotech consultants and cutting-edge medical technology specialists. The specific example she kept returning to was Vincent, her dynamic coworker who worked in biotech consulting and had recently completed some kind of consciousness-expanding wellness retreat in Costa Rica. Vincent represented everything she claimed I lacked: spontaneity, worldliness, and what she termed entrepreneurial vision, delivered with the same tone she'd used to explain complex medical devices to particularly slow doctors. While I was focused on precision measurements and safety protocols that kept aircraft from falling out of the sky, Vincent was exploring alternative business methodologies and holistic approaches to professional development. The contrast, according to Camila, was becoming increasingly apparent to everyone in their professional circle, particularly at the recent medical device conference where Vincent had apparently captivated an entire table with stories about sustainable business practices and mindful leadership techniques. I listened to her articulate these concerns with the same analytical approach I applied to aircraft component specifications, recognizing the underlying message beneath her corporate speak about compatibility and professional alignment. She wasn't questioning our relationship dynamics. She was announcing that someone more exciting had caught her attention and she needed me to provide the justification for what she'd already decided. The irony wasn't lost on me that while I'd spent 5 years ensuring aircraft components met exact specifications to prevent catastrophic failure, I'd completely missed the structural weakness developing in my own relationship. Camila had been systematically comparing me to Vincent for weeks, measuring my steady reliability against his apparent spontaneity, my methodical approach against his creative flexibility. She'd started mentioning him with increasing frequency, initially as amusing anecdotes about his unconventional consulting methods, then as examples of innovative thinking I apparently lacked. Vincent didn't just analyze medical device markets. He revolutionized them through disruptive methodologies and paradigm-shifting approaches that traditional thinkers like me couldn't comprehend. He networked with startup founders and venture capitalists while I focused on inspection protocols and safety margins. He attended transformational retreats and consciousness-expanding workshops while I preferred quiet evenings reviewing technical manuals and industry publications. The contrast she was drawing wasn't subtle, and her birthday party the following evening would provide the perfect venue for her to showcase what she considered an upgrade. I realized she'd already made her choice about Vincent, and this conversation was simply her way of managing the transition while maintaining plausible deniability about emotional infidelity. She needed me to be the problem, the incompatible partner holding back her professional and personal growth, so she could pursue Vincent without acknowledging she was abandoning someone who'd reorganized his entire life around supporting her ambitions. The precision that made me excellent at identifying structural flaws in complex machinery also revealed the calculated nature of her approach, and I understood that arguing or pleading would only provide her with additional ammunition for the narrative she was constructing about our incompatibility. Instead, I made the decision that would define everything that followed. I would give her exactly what she was asking for, just not in the way she expected. Instead of engaging in emotional arguments that would only validate her narrative about my inability to understand her sophisticated world, I systematically organized my departure while Camila celebrated with her pharmaceutical industry contacts and Vincent at her birthday party downtown. The methodical approach that served me well in aerospace quality control proved equally effective in relationship extraction. While she was showcasing her new dynamic connection to colleagues over expensive wine flights and artisanal cheese boards, I was efficiently dismantling 5 years of shared life with the precision of a component failure analysis. I abandoned the surprise spa weekend in Austin I had secretly booked 3 months earlier, complete with couples massage packages and reservations at that farm-to-table restaurant she'd mentioned wanting to try after reading about it in some lifestyle magazine. The deposit was non-refundable, but I considered it a small price for clarity about where I actually stood in her priorities. I also discarded the custom-designed watch I'd commissioned from a local jeweler, engraved with the coordinates from our first vacation together to Galveston, where she'd claimed to have fallen in love with both the Gulf Coast sunsets and my thoughtful nature. The watch had taken 8 weeks to craft and represented 2 months of careful budgeting, but it belonged to a relationship that no longer existed. My farewell message was precise and unambiguous, delivered via text while her birthday celebration was reaching peak sophistication. Stop questioning. It's over. Happy birthday. Here's your clarity. I turned off my phone immediately afterward, knowing that engagement with her inevitable response would only provide the emotional drama she was expecting and probably hoping for to justify her transition to Vincent. By Sunday morning, I had relocated to a contemporary apartment complex near the Aviation District, a sleek one-bedroom unit with industrial design elements and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the flight paths I monitored professionally. The irony of watching aircraft follow precise navigation protocols while my personal life had deviated so dramatically wasn't lost on me, but the symbolism felt appropriate for someone rebuilding from systematic failure. I completely severed all communication channels, blocking her number, email, and social media profiles with the same thoroughness I applied to contamination protocols in aerospace manufacturing. I refused to participate in the melodrama Camila anticipated, the tearful confrontations and desperate negotiations she'd probably witnessed in romantic comedies where persistent pursuit eventually wore down resistance. My methodical emotional withdrawal demonstrated a level of self-respect that surprised everyone in their social network, particularly the mutual friends who expected me to fight harder for someone who'd publicly questioned my adequacy. The aerospace industry had taught me that when structural integrity is compromised, attempting repairs often creates more extensive damage than complete replacement. I applied this principle to my relationship with unwavering consistency, recognizing that Camila's willingness to compare me unfavorably to Vincent revealed fundamental incompatibility that couldn't be resolved through emotional appeals or lifestyle modifications. She wanted spontaneity and entrepreneurial vision. I offered reliability and methodical planning. She craved excitement and professional networking adventures. I provided stability and consistent support. These weren't character flaws to be corrected but core differences that made us unsuitable long-term partners. My departure wasn't reactive anger but strategic recognition that I deserved someone who valued my strengths rather than cataloging my limitations compared to more exciting alternatives. The the silence that followed my exit was more powerful than any argument I could have constructed, because it forced Camila to confront the reality that her stable foundation had been permanently removed while she was busy exploring more thrilling possibilities with Vincent. I understood from aerospace failure analysis that the most catastrophic breakdowns occur when multiple systems fail simultaneously, and I had systematically withdrawn every support mechanism she'd taken for granted. No more financial backing for her professional image maintenance, no more emotional availability for processing her career anxieties, no more reliable presence to contrast against Vincent's exciting uncertainty. The apartment lease was entirely in my name, along with utilities and internet service, which meant her immediate living situation had become unexpectedly precarious. Her luxury vehicle lease payment was due in 2 weeks, and without my supplemental income, she'd need to find an additional $800 monthly just to maintain basic transportation. The pharmaceutical sales position that had seemed so promising when Vincent was providing inspiration now felt inadequately compensated for supporting the lifestyle she'd constructed around my stable earnings. I'd calculated these practical realities while packing my belongings, recognizing that Camila's pursuit of excitement hadn't included consideration of financial independence. She'd assumed my support would remain available regardless of how she treated our relationship, like some kind of permanent safety net that would continue functioning even while she tested alternative arrangements. The elegant wine bar where she'd celebrated with Vincent and their colleagues was charging everything to her credit card, because I was no longer available to cover social expenses that projected the image of success she thought necessary for pharmaceutical networking. The birthday party that was supposed to showcase her sophisticated connections instead became an expensive reminder that lifestyle inflation requires consistent funding. Her social media posts from the evening showed carefully curated images of wine glasses and artisanal appetizers, but the comments from colleagues asking about my absence revealed that my sudden disappearance hadn't gone unnoticed by people who'd observed us together at previous industry events. The aerospace quality control position that she'd characterized as boring and incompatible with her dynamic world had provided the financial stability that made her networking adventures possible. Without that foundation, her exploration of consciousness-expanding opportunities with Vincent would require significantly more practical planning than either of them had considered. I spent Monday morning updating emergency contact information at work and opening individual accounts at a credit union near my new apartment, methodically severing every financial connection that could provide her with access to resources she'd learned to value only after they were permanently unavailable. The precision of my departure had achieved exactly what I'd intended, forcing Camila to experience the full weight of her choices without the safety net she'd taken for granted while pursuing Vincent. Camila initiated a comprehensive outreach strategy within 48 hours, beginning with nostalgic texts about missing our weekend farmers market visits and progressing to tearful voicemails that characterized Vincent as a professional networking error she was eager to correct. The progression from casual reconnection attempts to desperate emotional appeals followed such a predictable pattern that I could have mapped it like a quality control flowchart. Her initial messages carried the tone of someone who expected minor relationship turbulence to be resolved through brief negotiation, as if my departure had been an overreaction rather than a calculated response to her systematic devaluation of our partnership. She referenced specific memories with surgical precision: the Saturday mornings we'd spent selecting organic produce and artisanal bread, the evenings I'd helped her prepare presentation materials for challenging client meetings, the quiet moments she claimed to treasure before Vincent's arrival had apparently revealed their inadequacy. These weren't genuine expressions of loss but strategic emotional manipulation designed to remind me of what I'd supposedly abandoned by leaving her birthday celebration prematurely. When her nostalgic approach failed to generate the desperate reconciliation she expected, Camila attempted to recontextualize her emotional infidelity as innocent workplace mentorship that I had misinterpreted through jealousy and insecurity. Vincent became a misunderstood colleague whose consciousness-expanding perspectives had been purely professional inspiration rather than personal attraction. The Costa Rica wellness retreat transformed from exotic adventure she'd envied to corporate team-building exercise I'd blown out of proportion. Her pharmaceutical industry networking requirements demanded exposure to innovative thinking, and my traditional aerospace mindset had apparently prevented me from recognizing legitimate career development opportunities. She framed Lorenzo's response as controlling and vindictive behavior from someone too emotionally immature to support her professional growth, completely reversing the narrative from her inadequate appreciation to my excessive jealousy. The rewriting of recent history was so comprehensive that she managed to portray herself as the victim of my unreasonable expectations rather than someone who'd actively compared me unfavorably to a more exciting alternative. When Lorenzo maintained complete silence despite her escalating emotional appeals, she mobilized our shared friend group to intervene on her behalf, portraying herself as the abandoned victim of his cruel and unexpected departure. Mutual acquaintances from aerospace industry gatherings and pharmaceutical networking events began receiving carefully crafted versions of our breakup that emphasized my sudden disappearance without adequate explanation or opportunity for resolution. According to Camila's account, I had vanished after minor relationship tension, abandoning 5 years of partnership because of professional jealousy and fear of her career advancement. She positioned herself as someone desperate to repair a relationship that I had destroyed through pride and stubbornness, conveniently omitting the compatibility concerns she'd raised and her obvious attraction to Vincent's entrepreneurial dynamism. Friends who had witnessed our apparent stability were genuinely confused by the disconnect between Camila's victim narrative and my complete withdrawal from communication. Her communications revealed mounting panic as she cycled through various manipulation techniques with increasing desperation and decreasing subtlety. Threats of self-harm appeared when emotional appeals failed to generate response, followed immediately by promises to relocate anywhere I demanded for the sake of my career advancement. The woman who had questioned my compatibility with her sophisticated pharmaceutical world suddenly offered to abandon her territory and professional relationships to follow my aerospace opportunities to different states. She claimed to have realized that stability and reliability were more valuable than excitement and entrepreneurial vision, that my methodical approach to life planning represented maturity she had been too young to appreciate properly. The complete reversal of her stated priorities was so dramatic that it revealed the manipulation tactics rather than genuine transformation. Lorenzo's absolute boundaries compelled her to face the reality that her emotional safety net had been permanently severed, and no amount of strategic communication would restore access to the financial stability and unconditional support she had systematically undermined while exploring more thrilling alternatives with Vincent. The pharmaceutical industry connections that had seemed so impressive when contrasted with my aerospace colleagues now felt inadequate for managing actual crisis, because networking events and consciousness-expanding conversations provided no practical solutions for immediate financial pressures or emotional instability. Vincent's entrepreneurial vision hadn't included contingency planning for supporting someone whose stable partner had withdrawn completely, and his biotech consulting income was insufficient for maintaining the lifestyle Camila had constructed around my reliable earnings. The luxury apartment lease that had been essential for her professional image was due for renewal in 6 weeks, and without my income contribution, she faced the humiliating prospect of downsizing to accommodations more appropriate for her actual salary level. Her carefully curated social media presence, which had showcased expensive dinners and sophisticated networking events, suddenly felt like evidence of financial irresponsibility rather than professional success. The designer wardrobe that projected pharmaceutical industry credibility had been purchased with credit cards she could no longer service without supplemental income, and her monthly payments were approaching territory that would affect her credit score. Colleagues who had witnessed her birthday celebration were beginning to ask questions about my absence and her increasingly desperate social media posts about missing meaningful connections. The pharmaceutical sales position that had seemed promising when enhanced by Vincent's inspiration now felt precarious and inadequately compensated for someone accustomed to dual-income lifestyle inflation. Her commission structure was dependent on client relationships that required consistent professional presentation and networking investment, both of which became challenging without the financial foundation I had provided. The consciousness-expanding perspectives that Vincent offered were proving unhelpful for addressing practical concerns like transportation costs, professional wardrobe maintenance, and social expenses required for pharmaceutical industry credibility. Camila's mounting panic was evident in the frequency and intensity of her communication attempts, which escalated from daily messages to multiple calls throughout business hours, despite her awareness that I was maintaining complete communication silence. The strategic manipulation techniques that had been effective during our relationship were powerless against someone who had systematically withdrawn all investment in her well-being and future prospects. Lorenzo acquired a sleek townhouse in a trendy arts district 6 months after his departure, using the substantial savings accumulated from no longer funding Camila's lifestyle inflation to secure a property that reflected his actual earning potential and professional stability. The 3-bedroom unit featured exposed brick walls, polished concrete floors, and a private rooftop terrace that provided unobstructed views of the downtown skyline where aircraft approached the regional airport in precise formation. I committed fully to a specialized aircraft certification program that positioned me for executive advancement within the aerospace quality assurance sector, dedicating evenings and weekends to mastering advanced inspection protocols and regulatory compliance systems that would qualify me for director-level positions. The coursework was demanding but intellectually satisfying in ways that pharmaceutical industry networking had never been, involving complex technical challenges that rewarded methodical analysis and attention to detail rather than superficial relationship management. Simultaneously, Camila's relationship with Vincent rapidly imploded when his authentic personality surfaced beyond the consciousness-expanding facade he'd maintained during their initial professional interactions. Vincent's biotech consulting business was revealed to be largely fictional, consisting primarily of freelance projects that generated sporadic income insufficient for supporting the entrepreneurial lifestyle he projected through social media and networking events. He maintained intimate connections with multiple women across his consulting network, treating each relationship as a strategic networking opportunity rather than genuine emotional partnership. His substance abuse issues became apparent during pharmaceutical industry gatherings where his erratic behavior and inappropriate comments to potential clients created professional embarrassment for anyone associated with him. The wellness retreat in Costa Rica that had seemed so sophisticated and transformational was actually a budget vacation funded through credit card advances, and his holistic business approaches were essentially recycled self-help concepts delivered with pseudo-spiritual terminology designed to impress people unfamiliar with actual entrepreneurial methodology. Vincent publicly embarrassed Camila at a major medical conference by arriving intoxicated to a client presentation she had organized, where his rambling commentary about consciousness expansion and paradigm shifts completely derailed her carefully prepared pitch for surgical device procurement contracts. The potential clients were so disturbed by his unprofessional conduct that they terminated preliminary negotiations and requested that future presentations exclude him entirely. Multiple colleagues who had initially encouraged her career upgrade began creating distance as Vincent's manipulative behavior became widely recognized throughout the pharmaceutical sales community. His pattern of exploiting professional relationships for personal gain extended to borrowing money from Camila's industry contacts under false pretenses, claiming emergency business expenses that were actually funding his lifestyle maintenance and recreational activities. The biotech consulting credentials he'd used to establish credibility were discovered to be exaggerated, and his previous employment history included terminations for misconduct and client complaints about dishonest practices. Lorenzo learned about these developments through industry publications that covered the medical conference incident and subsequent fallout, but remained concentrated on personal development rather than monitoring Camila's situation. I pursued photography as a creative outlet that complemented my technical precision, investing in professional equipment and enrolling in composition workshops that provided artistic balance to my analytical career focus. The photography classes introduced me to people outside the aerospace industry, expanding my social network beyond engineering professionals to include artists, designers, and entrepreneurs who appreciated creativity and craftsmanship. I also joined a sailing club that offered weekend excursions on Lake Worth, where the mathematical precision required for navigation and wind management appealed to my systematic approach while providing physical activity and outdoor adventure. The sailing community valued competence and reliability over flashy personality traits, creating an environment where my methodical nature was appreciated rather than criticized as boring or incompatible with dynamic thinking. These activities provided genuine satisfaction and personal growth that contrasted sharply with the social obligations and networking events I'd funded during my relationship with Camila, which had been designed to project success rather than develop authentic skills or interests. The townhouse became a reflection of my priorities and values, furnished with quality pieces selected for durability and functionality rather than impressing visitors who might evaluate my professional status based on material displays. I installed a home office equipped with multiple monitors for technical analysis work and reference materials, creating a productive environment for continuing education and certification maintenance that would advance my career trajectory. The photography darkroom I established in the basement provided a meditative space for developing film and experimenting with traditional photographic techniques that required patience and precision, skills that translated directly to my aerospace quality control responsibilities. Meanwhile, Vincent's comprehensive deception was unraveling across multiple professional and personal fronts as people discovered his pattern of exploitative behavior and fraudulent credentials. His biotech consulting contracts were revealed to be temporary positions that ended when clients recognized his incompetence and dishonesty, leaving him financially unstable and professionally blacklisted within the pharmaceutical industry network. The consciousness-expanding wellness retreats he referenced were actually group vacation packages marketed to people seeking spiritual transformation but delivering motivational seminars and recreational activities. His entrepreneurial vision consisted primarily of recycling business terminology from podcasts and self-help books without practical experience in building sustainable enterprises. Camila's association with Vincent had damaged her professional reputation among pharmaceutical industry colleagues who had witnessed his inappropriate behavior and recognized her poor judgment in partnering with someone so obviously unreliable. The medical device procurement contracts that she'd been developing for months were terminated after the conference incident, resulting in commission losses that affected her ability to maintain living expenses. Her sales territory was reassigned to more reliable representatives who could manage client relationships without generating controversy or professional embarrassment. The luxury apartment lease that had been essential for her pharmaceutical industry image expired without renewal option, forcing her to relocate to budget accommodations that undermined the professional credibility she'd worked years to establish. Her designer wardrobe, purchased on credit during the period when my income supplemented her lifestyle, became a reminder of financial irresponsibility rather than professional achievement. The networking events that had seemed sophisticated when enhanced by Vincent's innovative perspectives were revealed as expensive social gatherings that provided minimal business development value. Her pharmaceutical industry contacts began avoiding her due to association with Vincent's damaged reputation, leaving her isolated from the professional community she'd valued over our relationship stability. The biotech consulting opportunities that Vincent had claimed would revolutionize her career prospects were exposed as fantasy projections based on his inflated self-assessment rather than genuine industry expertise. Camila's reconnection efforts intensified dramatically when she ambushed Lorenzo at his aerospace facility 3 months after Vincent's public downfall, having tracked his schedule through professional directories and industry publications that listed him as a senior quality inspector with specialized certification credentials. She waited in the visitor parking area until his shift ended, appearing disheveled and emotionally unstable in clothing that suggested she'd been sleeping poorly and neglecting personal maintenance routines that had once been essential for her pharmaceutical industry image. The confidence and professional polish that had characterized her during our relationship had been replaced by desperate energy that was immediately apparent to security personnel who questioned her presence in a restricted aerospace facility area. I emerged from the building to find her leaning against my vehicle, having circumvented multiple security checkpoints through deception about conducting business research for pharmaceutical device applications. She disclosed that Vincent had completely disappeared after exploiting her industry contacts for his own business ventures, leaving her emotionally shattered and financially unstable without explanation or forwarding information for the money he'd borrowed under false emergency pretenses. His biotech consulting network had been revealed as an elaborate fiction designed to extract resources from pharmaceutical industry professionals who trusted his consciousness-expanding facade and entrepreneurial vision claims. The Costa Rica wellness retreat that had impressed her so thoroughly was discovered to be a budget vacation he'd funded through cash advances from multiple credit cards and personal loans that remained unpaid when he vanished from Fort Worth entirely. Vincent had systematically accessed her pharmaceutical client database during their relationship, using confidential contact information to pitch fraudulent consulting services and investment opportunities that damaged her professional relationships throughout the medical device sector. Her extended family began harassing Lorenzo through various social platforms and mutual acquaintances after learning about Vincent's abandonment and Camila's deteriorating financial situation, with her father even confronting him at his neighborhood gym to demand he step up during Camila's medical crisis that was apparently my responsibility to resolve. The medical crisis was primarily psychological breakdown resulting from recognizing that she'd abandoned a stable, supportive partnership for someone who had systematically exploited her professional connections and personal resources before disappearing without consequences for his fraudulent behavior. Her father's confrontation was aggressive and entitled, insisting that 5 years of relationship history created permanent obligations that transcended breakup circumstances or Camila's role in choosing Vincent over our established partnership. According to her family's perspective, my aerospace career and stable income made me responsible for providing financial assistance during her recovery period, regardless of how she'd treated our relationship or the reasons for our separation. Her mother contacted my workplace through corporate directories, claiming family emergency status to gain access to my direct supervisor and requesting information about my personal contact details for medical purposes that were never clearly specified. Camila's online presence transformed from polished pharmaceutical industry content to desperate emotional broadcasts that revealed the depth of her psychological instability and financial desperation to professional contacts who had previously respected her competence and reliability. Her Instagram posts became increasingly erratic, featuring inspirational quotes about recognizing toxic people and learning to value genuine loyalty, obviously directed at Vincent while simultaneously attempting to communicate with me through public vulnerability displays. The pharmaceutical sales position that had provided the foundation for her professional identity was terminated after her association with Vincent's fraudulent consulting activities created liability concerns for her employer's client relationships and regulatory compliance standards. Her sales performance had declined dramatically during the period when Vincent's erratic behavior was disrupting her client presentations, resulting in missed quotas. Lorenzo blocked all family members and mutual contacts who attempted intervention on Camila's behalf, firmly maintaining that she had created her situation through deliberate choices and must accept the consequences without expecting rescue from someone she'd systematically devalued and abandoned for more exciting alternatives. The aerospace facility security team documented her unauthorized presence and issued a formal trespassing warning that would prevent future access to company property. My supervisor was briefed about the situation to ensure that any additional family contact attempts would be handled through corporate security protocols rather than disrupting quality assurance operations. The photography workshops and sailing activities that had become central to my personal development provided genuine community connections with people who respected competence and reliability. These activities introduced me to individuals who appreciated methodical approaches to skill development and found my analytical nature compatible with creative pursuits. The sailing club members included engineers, medical professionals, and business owners who valued precision and preparation, creating social environments where my personality traits were assets rather than deficiencies. Vincent's disappearance had apparently followed a pattern he'd established in previous cities, where he would establish credibility within professional communities, exploit resources and relationships, then relocate before facing consequences. His biotech consulting credentials were discovered to be fabricated, with no legitimate educational background or professional certification in biotechnology or medical device development. The consciousness-expanding wellness retreats he'd referenced were marketing schemes designed to extract money from people seeking personal transformation through overpriced group activities. His entrepreneurial vision consisted entirely of repackaging self-help concepts with spiritual terminology to impress pharmaceutical professionals who lacked experience with genuine business development. Camila's professional network had been systematically damaged by her association with Vincent's fraudulent consulting activities, with multiple medical device manufacturers requesting that she be excluded from future procurement discussions. The pharmaceutical industry operates on trust and long-term relationships that require consistent competence and ethical behavior, standards that Vincent's conduct had completely undermined. Her commission structure had been dependent on maintaining positive relationships with key decision-makers who now associated her with unprofessional conduct and questionable business practices. 10 months after their separation, Lorenzo attended a regional aerospace achievement ceremony with his new partner, Francesca, a project management specialist he had encountered through the professional development workshops that accompanied his advanced certification program. The ceremony recognized excellence in quality assurance and safety innovation, where I received recognition for implementing inspection protocols that had prevented multiple potential aircraft failures and saved the company millions in liability costs and regulatory penalties. Francesca was everything Camila had never been: intellectually curious about my work, financially independent through her consulting practice, and genuinely supportive of my methodical approach to career advancement and personal development. She understood the precision required in aerospace quality control and appreciated the responsibility that came with ensuring passenger safety through meticulous attention to detail that could mean the difference between successful flights and catastrophic mechanical failures. Our relationship had developed naturally through shared professional interests and compatible life goals, without the dramatic emotional manipulation and financial dependency that had characterized my partnership with Camila. Francesca valued planning and preparation, contributed equally to shared expenses, and never made me feel inadequate for preferring stability over spontaneous adventures or consciousness-expanding experiences that promised transformation but delivered only expensive disappointment. The aerospace achievement ceremony was held at a prestigious downtown hotel, attended by industry professionals, government regulators, and corporate executives who recognized the critical importance of quality assurance in maintaining aviation safety standards and public trust in commercial flight operations. I had been selected to receive the Excellence in Safety Innovation Award for developing inspection methodologies that had been adopted across multiple aerospace manufacturing facilities, representing the culmination of years of dedicated work and continuous education that Camila had dismissed as boring and incompatible with sophisticated pharmaceutical industry networking. Camila infiltrated the event after discovering it through industry publications that covered aerospace safety developments and professional recognition ceremonies, having tracked my career advancement through online research that revealed my promotion to senior quality director and growing reputation within the aerospace safety community. She appeared distraught and poorly groomed in an ill-fitting borrowed outfit that contrasted sharply with the professional attire worn by legitimate ceremony attendees, creating an immediately obvious disruption to the formal atmosphere that the event organizers had carefully cultivated for honoring technical achievements. Her appearance suggested someone who had been sleeping poorly and neglecting personal maintenance routines, with visible signs of stress and financial hardship that made her presence at an exclusive industry event seem desperate and inappropriate for someone without professional credentials or legitimate business purpose. She had somehow bypassed security protocols designed to restrict access to credentialed industry professionals and invited guests, possibly through deception about her pharmaceutical industry background that no longer provided any legitimate connection to aerospace safety recognition ceremonies. Before Francesca and numerous industry professionals who represented the pinnacle of aerospace quality assurance and safety engineering, Camila delivered a desperate public appeal that revealed the complete collapse of her professional and personal circumstances since Vincent's abandonment and her subsequent termination from pharmaceutical sales. She confessed that she had lost major medical device procurement accounts due to association with Vincent's fraudulent consulting activities, been terminated from her pharmaceutical sales position after clients complained about unprofessional conduct and reliability concerns, and was currently employed at a retail pharmacy while residing with her grandmother in subsidized housing arrangements that represented a dramatic decline from the luxury lifestyle she had maintained during our relationship. The public confession was delivered with increasing desperation as she realized that the industry professionals surrounding us were witnessing her complete professional and personal humiliation, creating a scene that would be remembered and discussed throughout the aerospace safety community for months afterward. She pleaded with Lorenzo to consider couples therapy and reconciliation, insisting she had completed intensive counseling sessions to address what she characterized as self-sabotaging patterns that had led her to abandon a stable, supportive relationship for someone who had systematically exploited her professional connections and personal resources before disappearing entirely. Lorenzo composed but decisively informed her that she no longer held any significance in his life and that Francesca represented the caliber of partnership he actually merited, delivered with the same calm precision he applied to safety inspections that required absolute clarity about acceptable versus unacceptable standards. This public rejection, observed by their former professional community and industry leaders who would remember the incident whenever her name appeared in any professional context, constituted the ultimate degradation for someone whose identity had been constructed around projecting success and professional competence to sophisticated pharmaceutical industry colleagues who had already distanced themselves from her damaged reputation. The aerospace ceremony attendees who witnessed Camila's desperate appeal included senior executives from major aircraft manufacturers, government safety regulators, and quality assurance directors who represented the most respected professionals in an industry where reputation and reliability were essential for career advancement and client trust. Their collective observation of her unprofessional conduct would ensure that any future attempts to rebuild her professional reputation would be compromised by industry memory of this public breakdown. Francesca handled the disruption with remarkable composure, maintaining her dignity while observing Camila's desperate attempts to reclaim relevance in Lorenzo's life through public emotional manipulation. The contrast between Francesca's calm competence and Camila's erratic desperation was immediately apparent to everyone present, providing clear evidence of the upgrade in partnership quality that Lorenzo had achieved. Security personnel eventually escorted Camila from the ceremony after her emotional appeals became increasingly disruptive to the formal proceedings. The pharmaceutical industry connections that she had once leveraged to gain access to exclusive networking opportunities were no longer available, leaving her without the professional credibility required for infiltrating aerospace industry events. Her retail pharmacy employment represented such a dramatic professional decline that mentioning it during her public appeal actually undermined any remaining credibility she might have possessed with industry professionals. The grandmother's subsidized housing situation that she'd been forced to accept after losing the luxury apartment lease reflected the complete collapse of the lifestyle she had maintained through Lorenzo's financial support. Lorenzo's recognition at the ceremony for safety innovation validated the career path that Camila had characterized as boring, proving that methodical dedication to technical competence provided more sustainable success than superficial relationship management. The Excellence in Safety Innovation Award represented industry acknowledgement of contributions that had genuine impact on public safety, contrasting sharply with pharmaceutical networking events that focused on image projection rather than measurable professional achievement. Francesca's presence at the ceremony as Lorenzo's partner demonstrated her appreciation for his professional accomplishments and her willingness to support his career development, providing the kind of genuine partnership that Camila had never offered despite years of financial and emotional support. The narrative concluded with Lorenzo achieving remarkable professional advancement through promotion to Aerospace Quality Director 18 months after his separation from Camila, and discovering genuine happiness with Francesca, who truly valued his dedication and integrity in ways that Camila had never understood or appreciated during their 5 years together. The director position represented the culmination of methodical career planning and continuous professional development that had accelerated dramatically once I was no longer diverting resources toward funding someone else's lifestyle inflation and networking expenses. My specialized certification program had positioned me perfectly for the executive role, which involved overseeing quality assurance operations across multiple manufacturing facilities and ensuring compliance with federal aviation safety regulations that protected millions of passengers annually. Francesca celebrated each milestone with genuine enthusiasm and pride, understanding that my technical achievements represented real contributions to public safety rather than boring pursuits that lacked the excitement of pharmaceutical industry networking and consciousness-expanding business approaches. Our relationship had evolved into the kind of stable, supportive partnership that I had mistakenly thought I'd been building with Camila, But Francesca actually reciprocated the investment and appreciated the security that came from methodical planning and financial responsibility. We purchased a house together in an established neighborhood near the aerospace facility, pooling our resources as equal partners rather than one person subsidizing another's professional image requirements and unrealistic lifestyle expectations. The home represented genuine shared accomplishment and future planning with someone who valued stability over spontaneous adventures that promised transformation but delivered only expensive disappointment and professional embarrassment. Camila's comprehensive personal and professional collapse validated Lorenzo's decision to depart with honor rather than compete for someone who had systematically undervalued him while pursuing more exciting alternatives that proved to be elaborate deceptions. Her pharmaceutical sales career never recovered from the association with Vincent's fraudulent consulting activities, and her professional reputation within the medical device sector remained damaged by industry memory of unprofessional conduct and poor judgment in business relationships. The retail pharmacy position that had represented her dramatic professional decline was eventually lost due to attendance issues and customer complaints about her unprofessional demeanor and obvious psychological instability that made her unsuitable for patient interaction and medication management responsibilities. Her grandmother's subsidized housing arrangement became permanent after multiple failed attempts to secure employment that paid enough for independent living, creating a situation where someone who had once demanded luxury apartment leases now depended on elderly relatives for basic shelter and financial support. The betrayal that had initially generated confusion and anguish had evolved into absolute clarity regarding his self-worth and relationship expectations, teaching Lorenzo that genuine partnership required mutual respect, equal contribution, and appreciation for each other's strengths rather than constant comparison to more exciting alternatives. He contemplated how Camila's chase for excitement over security had resulted in losing everything she had previously dismissed as ordinary, including the stable foundation that had enabled her to pursue pharmaceutical industry networking and professional development opportunities. Her pursuit of Vincent's entrepreneurial vision and consciousness-expanding perspectives had cost her the financial support, emotional stability, and professional credibility that my methodical approach to life and career had provided throughout our relationship. Lorenzo's transformation from devastation to success illustrated that occasionally the optimal response to betrayal was constructing a superior existence without the person who had betrayed your trust, rather than attempting reconciliation with someone who had demonstrated fundamental incompatibility with your values and priorities. The aerospace quality director position provided professional fulfillment and financial advancement that exceeded anything I could have achieved while subsidizing someone else's lifestyle and managing the emotional drama that came from being with someone who viewed our relationship as a temporary arrangement pending better opportunities. The promotion included substantial salary increase, comprehensive benefits package, and stock options that provided long-term financial security through company ownership rather than dependence on pharmaceutical commission structures that fluctuated based on client relationships and market conditions. My reputation within the aerospace industry had grown to include recognition as an expert in safety protocol development, with other manufacturing facilities requesting consultation on quality assurance methodologies that I had pioneered during my specialized certification program. The technical presentations that I delivered at industry conferences attracted attention from aerospace executives who valued precision and systematic approaches to problem solving. Francesca's project management consulting practice had expanded to include aerospace clients, creating professional synergy that enhanced both our careers through shared industry knowledge. Our combined income and shared financial goals enabled investment strategies and retirement planning that would have been impossible during the period when I was funding Camila's lifestyle inflation. The sailing club activities had evolved into competitive racing participation that required technical skill development, providing recreation that combined my analytical strengths with physical activity. Photography had become a serious creative pursuit that generated supplemental income through specialized aerospace documentation projects, demonstrating how methodical skill development could create multiple revenue streams. The townhouse had appreciated significantly due to its location in the developing arts district, providing equity growth that validated careful research and long-term planning. Camila's continued decline included multiple failed attempts to rebuild professional credibility through entry-level pharmaceutical positions that were terminated due to performance issues and customer complaints about unprofessional conduct. Her social media presence had devolved into desperate inspirational quotes and transparent attempts to appear successful through carefully staged photos that fooled nobody familiar with her actual circumstances. The mutual friends who had initially encouraged reconciliation eventually recognized that Lorenzo's withdrawal had been an appropriate response to systematic disrespect and financial exploitation.